Welcome to today's episode of your Dream Coach podcast. I'm your host, Shayla Wey, and if you haven't done so yet, hit that follow button right now wherever you're listening, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or watching on YouTube so that you never miss an episode. And if this podcast has ever helped you as a leader, I would love a favor from you. If you are on Apple Podcasts, leave a quick rating and a review, just a couple lines on what the show has done for you. If you're on Spotify, hit follow and drop a rating right there in the app. And if you're watching this on YouTube, drop a comment below. I read every single one, and it helps the show reach the next leader who needs it. That's really the only way a show like this grows is you. So today I'm going to be talking about why your business isn't failing because of the market. It's failing because you're running on empty. And I want you to sit with that for a second, because most of us were never taught to look at it. We look at a slow month and blame the economy. We look at a team that's underperforming and blame the hiring pool. We look at a launch that flopped and we blame the algorithm. But some of the newest research on why founders actually fail says something different. Most startup failures trace back to the founder burnout and internal conflict, not the market, not the competition, not the economy, the founder. And so on this podcast, we really blend leadership, fulfillment, and growth as one goal, not as three separate ones. And so today we're going to dive into really, talking about the thing most of us hide until it costs us something we can't get back. And so the shift I want to make with you today is that we really have been taught to treat burnout like a personal problem. Something you fix on your own time with a bath and a Sunday off so that you can get back to being really sharp on Monday. But if burnout is actually driving the majority of business failures that aren't tied to the market, then burnout isn't a wellness issue. It's an operational risk. And it belongs on the same list as cash flow, hiring, and retention. And it really does deserve the same attention. And that reframe matters because of what it changes. And so when you treat burnout as a personal failing, you hide it. You push through it, you wait until you're forced to deal with it. And when you treat it as a business risk, you start tracking it the same way that you'd flag a dip in close rate or a slow quarter. And so burnout really isn't a wellness issue. It's an operational risk. And so I want to walk through 4 signs that nobody really names, because burnout rarely shows up as I'm tired. It shows up in ways most leaders don't recognize until it's already cost them something. So sign 1 is irritability with your team over things that never used to bother you. Small things start to feel personal. A question that used to be no big deal now feels like an attack on your competence. Sign 2, decision fatigue. Every choice, even small ones, start to feel heavier than it should. You find yourself avoiding decisions you should make, or decisions I guess you used to make in seconds, just taking longer, or just really avoiding them in general. Sign 3 is a growing detachment from the vision you used to be excited about. So you're going through the motions of business you used to love, and that's not the laziness. That's really just the warning light. And sign 4 is identity fused entirely to your output. Your sense of worth starts rising and falling with the day's results instead of staying steady underneath all of them. So which of these 4 have you really noticed in yourself, or maybe in your team even, in the last 30 days? And what have you done to work through them or to recognize them so that the challenge doesn't continue to build? Now, a huge amount of entrepreneurs, leaders, the burnout comes from staying the bottleneck on everything: decisions, approvals, problems that should belong to someone else by now. And if you are the only person who can make a call in your business, you're not just capping your growth. You're setting yourself up to be the exact failure point the research keeps pointing to. And this is where I always bring it back to what I've seen firsthand leading sales teams and developing managers, is that leaders who scale are not the ones who hold on tighter. They're the ones who hand off earlier and sometimes can feel comfortable. And so what I learned the hard way when I was in my early stages of leadership and building a business is that I had reservations on whether or not somebody would ever be able to do a lot of the things that I was doing in my business to my caliber. And although I will always say to a business owner that most likely nobody will do it as good as you or care maybe as much as you because it's your business, the only way to really scale is to buy back time. And that's where a lot of other things that I teach on other podcasts and a lot of what I do as a coach is systems and scalability and how do we vision cast and look further into the future. Because I found that in certain parts of my business and, coaches and coaching that I've done for other entrepreneurs is that when we have a 3-year vision and we work backwards and we start to look more at the facts versus the feelings, it challenges us to think, well, what's not working for us right now? And what are we solving for? And if we think about the topic of burnout, oftentimes is us taking on tasks that I used to call like those, $20 an hour tasks. And so depending on what business you run, depending on where you're at in your role, is if it's not making you, again, $100, $500, $1,000 for the hour, is it worth your time? And sometimes leaders, and I know I was in those shoes definitely in my early journey, was a little worried to either invest in staff or to delegate and to really kind of let go of control. But what I found is time and time again, when I would create a role that was going to help grow my business, I would always look for the right person to fill the role. Okay. Not create a role for the person just because I liked them. And that always allowed me to grow and stretch because it really just buys back more energy. And when we have more energy and we have got more time to grow the business because we have the clarity, that's where we're going to continue to scale, right? And we really have to have that mindset of a CEO. And I've listened to lots of podcasts and read many books that really have always challenged me to think like a CEO. And, I always can fall back into the trap of, well, I've got this or I've got that, I've got kids, all the different things. But I have to go back and really own it and say, how would a CEO look at this? How would they solve this challenge, right? And so here's where this lands is that you don't need a burnout diagnosis to take this seriously. You really need one honest look at your week and one honest look at your leaders' weeks, right? And so this week, I want you to just name one of the signs that maybe you've been ignoring in yourself out loud just to one person. And ask one leader on your team how they're actually doing and mean it enough to just sit with the real answer. And that's the whole intervention, not a retreat, not a total life overhaul, just the willingness to see it before it starts to show up in your business. Right? So if we take a look and just do an audit at really the last 7 days, what's something that you want to solve for? And if this hits home for you, send this to the leader in your life who's kind of been white knuckling it lately. And one more time before I let you go is we don't have a big corporation backing this show, right? The only way this show grows is you. So if you are on Apple Podcasts, again, leave a rating and a review. If you're on Spotify, hit follow and rate the show. And if you are watching on YouTube, drop a comment and let me know what landed for you today. Or share your own story of catching burnout before it caught you. I read every single one, and some of the best future episodes on the show have come straight from those comments. So continue to dream bigger and lead better. I'll see you next time.